Hey!
Oh, hey, Navi!
Listen!
My ears are open to you and only you.
You actually like that thing?
Shut up, Link.
Yeah! Ah! Everybody shares common conventions and aspects of video games that will probably make them power and overload a steam train. And don't worry, I'll be the driver and also the conductor of this list. I think I'll repeat that gag at every single one of my stand-up routines for the next 5 years. Anyway, whether it's the tropes that piss you off for wondering why the developers like them so much, or why they think the audience like them, I'm here today to demand an answer for that before my plane ticket expires for teaching some lessons to them with my trusty titanium cane. To obviously hit them with. In a disciplinary way. I'm not speaking innuendos! So these choices that I've made are my own personal rankings. You may have a difference in priority of what you dislike more or seem to hate other things. And trust me, these aren't the only things that I don't like. There's a whole list I could go over. So let's begin.
Dive.
Okay, yes, QuickTime Events seem to be a weird one to be putting this low on the list, but quite frankly, I'm not that bothered by them. Sometimes they can work, such as in games like God of War when it can save trying to find a fast button combination to see an awesome move. This also applies to some other games. However, Ninja Gaiden just let you hold down a button to perform an ultimate move on someone. And in number 2, you can execute an enemy just with the push of a button. So I can safely say that the reason I don't like QuickTime Events is because they're not even necessary. I know developers are trying to keep cutscenes interactive to make it less like watching a boring movie, but I'd rather do that than to get startled and choke on my whiskey because suddenly I have to press buttons like lightning. What if that happened in real life? Some games even have the balls to make you tap one button over and over again where it just tires out your fingers. Heavy Rain is an entire game full of these QuickTime events, but I believe that's the entire point, so that's not like a startling situation.
Inartheg.
Whew, came back from a piss, I hope it's done. Oh, come on! Anyone fancy some Sonic 06? Whew, those enemies were pretty tough. Oh great, more! What? Great, now I'm dead. I'm right back here again! Honestly folks, I understand these developers want to give us a challenge, but I don't go through an interview, pass it, and on my shift I get let off with a warning, and then get carried back to the interview. Okay, maybe in university I might, but regardless. I just proved to you that I can beat all those enemies, now you want me to do that twice more? Or even more than that, depending on how shit I am at the game. That's like filling paperwork and then the manager being a bitch and saying, there's plenty more where that came from. It's their way of saying, psych! And they wouldn't know a challenge if it ripped their face off. This leads me to having to turn off my system because I may have to go somewhere for a while, and then I come back and realize that checkpoint wasn't even an autosave. I start right back at the beginning? Okay, my fault, I should have realized that, although Final Fantasy should take notes. But what about those items you miss and can't get back unless you start all over again or from a long way away? Yeah, reminisce those good times.
No.
Stealth missions are indeed a good concept, but just the way they are implemented, they're just not fun. How does, if I get caught, I have to start back at the beginning, alarm the makers that people will love it?
Why is there a stalker outside my window?
Oh, now I have to start from the beginning of the street. Oh.
Well, in that case, babe, come on in.
Sorry, a game's a game.
What?
Metal Gear Solid, Splinter Cell, and sometimes Uncharted. Good fun because they have the proper stealth tools. And I say sometimes in Uncharted because not all the missions involve in the starting again formula. Sometimes you can stealthily bring someone down or just fire at will. Is Will a Serbian name? But it's kind of uncommon for me to come across these, but they will infuriate me constantly just thinking about them. So all in all, just let there be a bit more progression in stealth. That's all I'm asking for. Alright, if you saw my Pokemon Black Let's Play, then you could see that I took extra care with making sure my Pokemon were in tip-top shape. So that meant I had to take ages to level grind. Luckily there was an item in the game called the Lucky Egg, which greatly helped leveling up as well as the repetitive trainers to face. So why can't all the games give you that availability? Okay, some of them kinda do, but it's quite rare. Excessive level grinding is something which can take from 20 minutes to forever to go through, and there's no simple and fun way to go about it. Just missing time out your social life, playing no music at all, and sitting in the corner hoping to raise that Mew up to level 100. The sad thing is that it's a hard thing to improve on because there will be in a lot of RPGs to contribute to the game's difficulty. And you could say to level up naturally through the game, but then I'm just spamming full restores and sacred ashes. Hacks! I want to show that I've proved something, but I also want to have fun. And this is higher because I've experienced it more times than the predecessors on this list. Plus it's sad to know that there are games that have other traveling and boring problems but still have a fair leveling system.
Sigh.
I usually want to progress on through a game to gather a further glimpse of its story. But first I must gather 15 hobnobs and 12 grill snatches. Yes, I am talking about long fetch quests. When I see them appear, it's usually where they are part of a requirement to get to the next mission. Stop it! Since when do enough pumpkins mean that I can face Count Dracqueenula? If you are really going to get me to do a fetch quest, make sure that they are consistent. And since when do these items mean that I'm trustworthy enough to be allowed back into the Mages Guild? How about I actually bury that traitor that got me kicked out in the first place for killing him? In a nutshell, fetch quests can be long, they're certainly boring, and mostly an excuse for adding more content to a game. And also, ingredients for an item I'm making do not count. Please developers, for the love of God, this character is looking forward, but I'm not. Let me fix that issue, yes? Camera faults and restraints can be a massive buzzkill to that super combo you want, or make you lose the footing on a platform. I really don't care if the camera goes through a wall, just let me have a look. And no, I'm not a peeping Tom. My name is KB. You never really see the Sims have a problem with the camera, do you? All I can really say for this one is that first-person shooters, they got it right. This is partially why Assassin's Creed 1 didn't appeal that much to me. These 5-minute cutscenes that I fill a drool paddling pool over, please stop making me have to watch them. They're boring. It's stuff that I do not care about, and if I wanted to see an interesting cutscene, I would go back to those QuickTime events. And no, that's not a signal for you to do that. One exception I will have with these cutscenes which you can't skip is if it's an item that needs to be specifically shown to you. But even then, I can be shown on screen while playing the game. Okay, I guess now I'm just being a bitch. Basically, if cutscenes are boring, just let me skip them. And I really don't care about the full credits. I mean, yeah, thank you for making the game and all, but no. Now, not every game has those technical difficulties I mentioned, but what they do have is something that they willingly chose to insert because they were like,
Do I really have to add more bosses and levels?
Nah, just make the game.
What?
yes, this is backtracking and replaying. I faced this boss before, but now I have to face them a few more times with some tweaks added. When Shadow of the Colossus added the same kind of Colossi back for another fight, at least it was handled so much differently. Why can't most games just make it harder with a harder difficulty, and then just hire different designers and writers? On the topic of going back to previous levels, Devil May Cry 4 is an entire game dedicated to going somewhere and then going straight back. What's the fun in going back where you came from except to correct the mistake of your time at Magaluf? How about a mission where you have to buy milk from the shop, and then you have to walk back using the same exact route? Ooh. I say no, and so must you. Worst case scenario, the player has to go back because they forgot their keys. Do you know why it's good that some games spare some room for co-op? Because the developers want to limit the amount of stress flung out into the faces of man. There is just one ingredient they missed out in the artificial intelligence, and that's common sense. If there's something in your way, walk past it. If I'm in danger, help me! And if I'm angry at you, piss off! You would have thought that AI has progressed over the years, but instead it's failed to keep up with the other improved qualities of gaming. And then what if there is no co-op? I'm just limited to this! And if I have no internet, there'll be one hair just shivering on my head and crying over the death of the rest of the neighborhood. And lastly, most of the time, if they die, you die. Which is stupid because I wouldn't mind having them die so that I can carry on in peace. Now, water levels can be good or a challenge in the hands of a nutcase. That's me, by the way. And usually when they're good, you're moving through some sort of tube that has air flowing through it. So you're not really going through the water as such. But when the levels are bad, oh hell are they bad. Labyrinth, anyone? Water temple, anyone? Surfing, any? I never catch tentacles, okay? In case you've never been explained into the trouble of water levels, they usually limit the controls compared to playing on land, and that'll also result to some annoying enemies. Even if you can attack underwater, they'll still keep an unfair advantage against you. Alright, it is fair, they're fish, I know. What puts water levels at this spot is because the bases of these levels are hard to improve on. It can be done, of course, but can it grow on me? Sadly, no. The only great thing I can acknowledge out of these levels is the music, like the one I'm playing now.
Next level, the fifth wall.
Here it is. What could be worse than water levels, chase missions, stealth missions, and any other kind of levels? Well, it's something that you should be made to not like. Something which contains an increasingly annoying character that will constantly pester you to save them. I don't even want to say it. I just don't want to say it. Okay, alright. Escort missions.
I'm going to do the cliche combining previous entries to make this one, and say that this has the starting again trouble of the stealth missions, the shit AI, the lack of mobility to have fun with the game, and the kind of camera that can stop you from seeing where the burdening character actually is. The only original trait this entry has that I don't like is that most of the time, the player you have to protect is whiny, annoying, and won't pipe down. And not just that, but they're so weak. And a lot of these missions are almost as bad as having to save Ashley Graham. Luckily though, you can unlock the suit of armor to give her so that she can't be shot by you, which did anger me a lot, and the hostile plebs can't pick her up. You can only unlock this after completing it for the first time though. However, I was an idiot when facing the Chainsaw Sisters because I didn't put her into the bin to stay in forever and ever. Grand Theft Auto also has a lot of these, such as having to drive carefully because you have to escort a man who has serious heart conditions. Thank you, Infinity Ward, for making Captain Macmillan invincible. Yes! So in conclusion, I think that those characters should be more grateful to me, and I wish they had dynamite attached to them so that I can tell them not to make any noise, or else.
So that is all. Yeah, you can see my face is exactly the same color, and that's why I never said I hated these, I only dislike. I'm not a hateful person. So, thank you all for watching. Be sure on your final answer to love my Facebook page, stalk me on Twitter, and so many other links, as well as subscribing and following my channel and my other channel. And again, thank you all for watching. Lights out.